Hey guys, so today we're going to take a look at my digital audio player collection, or my DAP collection. These are all high-end digital audio players, and yeah, we're going to take a look at each one. They're actually ordered right now in year of release, so it's going like chronologically, this one being the oldest and then this one being the newest. And I'll go over each one and talk a bit about them. I like to collect different electronics and gadgets. If you guys watch my YouTube channel, you can see like various collections of different things. And yeah, being kind of an audiophile and a musician, I got into digital audio players as well and started collecting these as well. So yeah, we'll take a look, talk about each one, and I'll tell you guys why I have it, original retail price, etc. Okay, so I'm gonna start from the upper left right here. This one is the oldest music player in terms of when it was released. So this is the Hifiman HM901S, originally retailed for $1,500 US. And yeah, in terms of aesthetics and everything, like this is definitely one of the most unique looking players in my collection. It looks like a super high-end iPod basically, with the scroll reel here. This is yeah, this is like a throwback to the iPod, right? But yeah, it's super well built, nice aluminum chassis here, really solid looking. So Hifiman being one of the pioneers of the digital audio player industry when it comes to the high-end stuff, right? They were one of the first to make a high-end digital audio player, like before Astel and Kern and anyone else did. And they're now a pioneer. They're also a pioneer in the planar magnetic headphone industry, as people who are audiophiles know about. But yeah, I wanted to have a Hifiman DAP in my collection because just historically, you know, Hifiman being one of the first true high-end digital audio player brands. They don't make them anymore, but they definitely pioneered the industry. And just the unique appearance and also some innovations as well. Like this one has the ability to swap out different amp cards. So basically you just unscrew these two, you take off the back, and then you can swap out the different amps inside of it. So you have different choices, like there's one for IEMs, there's one for higher power output, balanced output. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, and it's a really retro, vintage looking music player. And it's the one that, you know, out of all my music players, yeah, this is the only one that's not a touchscreen. So that makes it kind of visually distinctive and unique. Home button, play, pause, next track and previous track. Click wheel for navigation, and a return button, and the volume dial is actually up here. Very, very unique volume dial. I think only Hifiman has that. And it does have balanced output, but it's a 3.5 millimeter balanced, which was one of the competing balance standards back then. Yeah, it's pretty unique. It has a proprietary charger, and yeah, it takes in full size SD cards. Yeah, well, I mean, we can boot it up and take a brief look, even though this one has some issues. I can't get the SD card to be properly recognized in this player, unfortunately, but we can take a look at the operating system. Okay, so this is what the user interface looks like. This is actually an updated version of their previous interface for the HM901. This is called the Tai Chi 2, I think, and it works fairly well. Like, yeah, the scroll wheel you can use go somewhere. Of course, I can't actually go to any music tracks right now because yeah, the SD card has an issue. But yeah, yeah, that's kind of too bad. But hey, you guys can see exactly, you know, user interface here with the scroll wheel. So yeah, all in all, a custom operating system, and the only one in my collection that's not a touchscreen. You just use the scroll wheel to navigate. But yeah, pretty cool. And basically, it even has a Spidafin, actually. You can change it to Spidafin, so that's cool. But yeah, now playing, favorite, SD card, artist, album, genre, all songs, eject SD. So those are the different settings. And yeah, which go into any screen, and kind of return home like that. Yeah, it works. Anyways, I'll show you guys. Yeah, the interface works, not the SD card, unfortunately. Yeah, I'll show you guys the power off animation, which looks like a CRT screen, a CRT TV screen turning off. That looks pretty cool. Anyways, that's the Hifiman HM901S. Definitely, I think out of all my music players, it's the most unique looking and the only one without a physical touch screen. Yeah, and the DAC chip inside of this is two ESS Sabre 9018, which was the top of the line ESS Sabre DAC back then, and one of the best DACs on the market back in the day. And this came out, yeah, like 2015. So ES 9018 would have been the top DAC at the time. So yeah, pretty good DAC for the time. I don't know exactly the output power, but you can even change it with the amp modules anyways. So yeah, let's just say that this was definitely one of the top DAPs that you can get at the time. So yeah, that was 2015. Next, we move on to the Cowon Planu S, which came out late 2015, early 2016. It's by Cowon. Cowon is a South Korean company that used to make a lot of cool digital audio players, but nowadays they still exist, but they just don't really make much stuff anymore. So they're kind of just a shell of what they used to be, unfortunately. But they used to make a lot of cool digital audio players, right? This was their flagship back in 2015, 2016. So this one had a PCM 1792A DAC from Burr Brown or Texas Instruments. So it's got a pretty unique DAC because compared to DACs these days, you don't really see Texas Instruments or Burr Brown much anymore. But yeah, this would have been one of the top DACs of the time. So pretty good DAC. And output power, I think around like 400 milliwatts, 500 milliwatts. Pretty good for the time. It does not have a volume dial. It just uses like physical volume controls here, but you have the standard media buttons here. It's really nice and portable, I would say. This is a pretty good size for me for a DAP. Like it's easy to hold in the hand and carry. This actually would have been considered a big size back then, because like the standard size of phones would have been this size back then. But you can see nowadays that as time went on, in general, yeah, the size of digital audio players has increased, just like with smartphones. What makes Cowon unique is that for their Planu series, they use the Jet Effect. Jet Effect is kind of like a DSP EQ software that they use, and it works really, really well. And we have a 2. Actually, no, that's not 2.5. It's 3.5 again. So yeah, just like with Hifiman, we have the 3.5 balanced, which was yeah, that was a standard back then. Nowadays you don't have 3.5 balanced as much anymore. Now you have 4.4 mostly, but back in the day you had 3.5. 2.5 was also another option, but I actually don't have any players here with 2.5. Okay, so boots up pretty fast, and yeah, this is the UI here. It's their own custom UI. It's not based on Android or anything, or maybe it is. Maybe it's a customized Android, but anyways, you can't really install your own apps onto it, unfortunately. It's just kind of the simplistic UI where you can kind of see your favorites, all artist, genre, playlist, new. Yep, and then you go to the track right here. Actually, I can use this like capacitive button here to do that as well. You'll show this is the music player album cover and everything. What's really unique about the Cowon Planus is actually with this one, yeah, you can actually turn to the side and it'll do the cover flow. So it'll have the cover flow going. Yeah. So that's if you want to see the different album covers and yeah, navigate like that, just like on an iPod Touch back in the day. Okay, here we go. But yeah, like I said, the unique thing about Cowon is the Jet Effect. So if you go to Jet Effect here, you have up to 16 user presets. You can configure it with up to 16. But yeah, you have all these different effects: BBE, Viva, Viva 2, Mach 3 bass, MP, headphone, in addition to your standard EQ presets that you see on most audio players. But yeah, then you have Maestro, which is increasing the vocals, feel the wind, increases the soundstage, Maestro, crystal clear, reverb effects as well, chorus effects, unison, flange. You have so many like interesting effects for Cowon Planu, and I would say that it's some of the best DSP and EQ I've experienced on any player. Like most of the time, I would say if you use one of the DSP settings, like most of these players, I don't use DSP. I don't use the EQ built-in effects, right? So like you get these EQ effects on most digital audio players, but I don't use them because they sound kind of artificial, and I don't like that. But when it comes to Cowon Planus and Jet Effect, it actually does sound very natural. And not only does it change the frequency response and tuning, but it also changes the texture and soundstage. It can change those things as well. I don't know how it does it. It's some kind of magical wizardry, but yeah, it'll like increase the detail. Like some of these effects, BBE, MP, can increase the detail. Feel the Wind can actually increase the soundstage. Maestro can actually increase vocal texture. Mach 3 bass increases bass texture. Like, it's not just a bumping up of certain frequencies. So that's pretty unique to Cowon Planus. So anyways, that's why I have this in my collection. You gotta have this Cowon Planu in the collection because the DSP of Jet Effect just makes it kind of unique, and only Cowon Planus have it. So that's why I have that in my collection. Also, just a really nice size, you know, really nice size to carry, and the UI was pretty responsive and fast. So it's a nice player. And this retailed for, actually it's hard to find a retail price originally for this. It was above $1,500 though. I think it was like $1,600 to $1,800 maybe, US back then. But it was hard to find the retail price, but I think it's somewhere around $1,500 to $1,800 US back then. All right, and it has this cool, like, yeah, ridged back, I guess. So that's a Planu S from Cowon. Okay, moving on. I think this player was released in 2016, late 2016, early 2017. We have the Sony Walkman WM1A. Yeah, this is a really nice looking player too. You can see this nice textured back here. Feels very premium. This nice brushed aluminum finish. Yeah, this is a very high-end, high-class Sony. Now, this is not their flagship. Their flagship was the WM1Z, but this is still like, it's like second down from their flagship. You know, it's just a level below their flagship. And I think it retailed for around 1,200 back in the day, or 1,300. Power output is not that high because Sony generally doesn't focus on that. I would say around, like, say 400 milliwatts for the balanced, maybe 200 for the unbalanced. They have their own proprietary DAC and amp, so Sony always uses their own stuff. So their DAC is the S Master HX, which is a combined circuit with the DAC and the amp. So Sony always uses their own proprietary architecture for that. And I would say it gives a very warm musical sound. So with the Planu S, forgot to talk about the sound quality, but the Planu S with the PCM DAC inside of here sounds fairly like musical, leaning warm, I would say. Sounds leaning warm and fairly musical sounding. It's not going to be the last word in resolution or anything like that. But when you add the Jet Effect software and EQ, then it kind of turns this up another level to where it can kind of be competitive with a lot of flagships these days. The Sony Walkman, yeah, with the S Master HX, I always found like, yeah, it sounds pretty warm and musical. More so than the Cowon, I would say. So this is probably one of the, out of all the DAPs here, probably this one sounds, I would say, lack of a better word, musical. That means it sounds kind of really engaging and dynamic and exciting. So it's got like maybe a little bit boosted bass and treble, I would say, and leaning on the warm side. It's not like R2R warm or tube warm, but it's definitely leaning on the warm side. But it sounds very like, yeah, musical, engaging, dynamic, that kind of feeling, you know? So, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it has to like kind of load it up. The UI is actually very, very smooth on this Walkman. And this one does not use Android. It's using their own custom OS. Yeah, you can see on the side here, Sony does not use any volume dials either. They use the standard buttons for volume and then media playback controls there. They use their own proprietary connector for this one. Later on, they'll switch to USB-C, but they have their own proprietary connector for this generation. And micro SD there, and you got your balanced 4.4, which is much appreciated because Sony actually pushed the 4.4 before anyone else did. This is kind of their standard, and it kind of won over everyone else, so now everyone uses 4.4 as the balanced, not 2.5 or balanced 3.5. Okay, so yeah, the interface here, so it's a custom OS that looks a lot like Walkman app. If you use the Android Walkman app, it kind of looks like that, except this is the complete operating system. But it's cool, you know, it's very, very fast and responsive. Yeah, if I go to like all songs here, so yeah, just being able to scroll like this, it's actually really, really fast and responsive. So no issues with this, even though it doesn't have a search feature. That's fine though, because it's super fast at actually just navigation. So yeah, and go to artist here. Yeah, so I like to have DAPs with search functionality because I'm not really organized. Like I don't have all my songs in folders, but for the Walkman WM1A, I'll make an exception just because like it's just so fast. Like, yeah, just being able to scroll to whatever song or artist you want is it's just like that. Really easy to do. So yeah, if you go to the music player here, yeah, so when you play something, you'll have this music visualizer thing show, and then you can adjust the EQ settings down here, like EQ, and then Sony has their own DSP stuff as well. DSEE-HX which will upsample the music, DC phase linearizer, which will I can add a little bit of a like tonality shift onto the music, make it sound even more like, yeah, musical, I guess, and warm. Dynamic normalizer, minimize volume difference between songs. Vinyl processor will make it even more warm, sound like a vinyl, will roll off the treble. Yeah, so overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the WM1A. Like, this is a really nice sounding music player. Like, I'm not going to say it's going to compete with the highest end flagship DAPs now, but let's just say that for $1,000 back in 2016, like, this really punches above. Like, even like now, if you like listen to this, it sounds really nice and musical. Like, I still listen to this sometimes over like say my Lotoo Pod Gold, which I'll get to later, or my Hiby R6. Like, those are newer, but not necessarily better. You know what I mean? Like, I've listened to like a lot of recent DAPs, like the Aston Kern SP3000M, for example. That's a pretty high-end modern DAP, but for a lot of times I would still take the Sony just because of the tonality. I love the musical tonality of this DAP, and it's in my collection because you got to have a Sony Walkman. You know, Sony Walkman kind of they're the ones that created the portable music player category back in the late 70s. You know. So this is the evolution of that with the digital audio player. I gotta have one in my collection just for the history and everything. The Sony Walkman being such an influential brand when it comes to digital audio players. And the WM1A is a really good one. It has its own custom operating system, has just the right size, feels really premium. I don't like the new ones as much because it's like, it's more bulky, I guess. It's bigger. Yeah, even though the newer ones use Android, which is better, but like this one does not support streaming or anything. You can't load your own custom apps onto it, but I do appreciate the form factor, you know? I think this is like really, really nice to hold in the hand and everything. The newer ones are just a bit too chunky for me. Yeah, and I didn't get the 1Z because it's actually double the weight. So the WM1A is yeah, that's where it is. Keep in my collection. Gotta have a Sony Walkman. Okay, next up in my collection is the Cayin N8. This came out in 2018, and it's by the Chinese audio company Cayin, which is known for making both tube amplifiers and digital audio players. And this was the flagship of Cayin back in 2018. Yeah, this is the special brass black limited edition, and you guys can see it looks pretty unique, right? This is actually one of the most unique looking digital audio players back then and still now. You know, you don't see anything look like this. Even their successor, the N8 II, doesn't look quite as unique as the N8. So you have this button here is kind of like the home button, and this is the power button. Actually, let's just turn it on like this. Yeah, never be the same again. So this one uses its own operating system. But yeah, this is a kind of a simplistic operating system because it's designed purely for music. It doesn't use Android or anything. So Cayin would later move on to Android, but for this generation, they went with their own. So if we go to artist here, it could be better when it comes to responsiveness. It's not like the most responsive. Definitely not as much as the Sony Walkman for sure. Like it definitely could be better. Yeah. And if you do search, it's like the search is really not good. That it uses this like old school 2000s flip phone T9 input, which is, yeah, I don't know why they did that. Like, this is like probably one of the worst search functionality I've seen on a music player. This is terrible. Why would you use T9 to search? Like, yeah, that's really bad. I hated typing on T9s back then. But yeah, it's okay, you know. It's not super responsive, but still usable, I guess. Go to here. Yeah. You can play a song like that. Oh yeah, so it's got to preheat the vacuum tube before you do it. Yeah. And then there you go. And this brings you to the track. So what's interesting about the N8 is several things. So first of all, this is a hefty music player. Yeah, it weighs like almost 400 grams, which is almost half a pound. So it's pretty hefty, but it feels very premium in the hand at the same time. Yeah, so volume dial up here. it's got two dials on the sides. So that's kind of unique. So it's got one volume dial here. And then this dial is interesting because you can use it to play pause. So if you want to pause your music, you just press in on it. You know, so if we press in on this one, this is the power button, right? This will shut it off. But if you press on this one, it's a play pause. And then when you go up, it actually will go to the previous track, and down will go to the next track. So yeah, so go up, that's a previous track, and then down will go to the next track. So it's pretty unique. You know, most digital audio players will have either like the Sony, like it will have well, most music players will just have the media controls on the side, right? That's how most do it. Some, even like the Hifiman, if you want to go back to the iPod-ish design, like the 2000s era MP3 player design, I would say, yeah, you have it on the front of the player. But yeah, the Cayin, uniquely, only the Cayin N8 is like this. You use the second dial to do that. So that's pretty interesting. I find that just one of the most interesting things about the design is that you have two dials, and this one is actually used for navigation between music tracks. No other digital audio player does that. It's also got a built-in vacuum tube, like I said. So it's got a Korg new tube 6P1 inside of it. This was one of the first digital audio players to actually have a vacuum tube inside of it. Now, this is not a traditional vacuum tube. It's a new tube, but still, it's an actual, like, behaves just like a vacuum tube, right? So yeah, this is one of the first music players to have a vacuum tube inside, and actually does sound like a vacuum tube. Like a lot of other tube music players, like these days you see a lot of music players with tubes inside of them, right? The Shanling M8T or the Aston Kern SP3000T, yeah, they have tubes in them, quote unquote, but they don't actually sound like they have tubes in them. Like even the N82, the successor to this one, doesn't sound exactly as tubey as this one does. So I would say out of all the digital audio players, the ones I've tried, most of them that have tubes in it don't actually sound like that tubey or warm. You know, you expect to have a lot of warmth to it because you're expecting tubes, right? This one is one of the few, or yeah, one of the only ones that actually feel like it has a tube inside of it. So it actually does sound very warm. Now the tube output is only through the 3.5, unfortunately, not through the balanced. But you do have 4.4 millimeter balanced, right? In addition to 3.5 and the line out here. But yeah, the tube output is only through 3.5. But it does actually sound like a tube, so that's pretty interesting. And then at the bottom here, yeah, you have an I2S port, which is pretty unique. You can actually go out, use the tube kind of power, and if you use the tube as a preamp, you can kind of use the I2S port to go out to your personal mixing decks or whatever, your like desktop audio equipment. You can use that for. So that's pretty interesting. Not many digital audio players have an I2S port like this one does. Cayin, I think Cayin devices, like, yeah, they tend to have a little bit more ports for like desktop use. So, and I can see this mostly using this as a desktop digital audio player because it's actually kind of heavy. Micro SD and the USB-C here. Yeah, overall, it's a very unique player, like both in terms of design and in functionality, because in terms of design, this is like the only music player that looks like this, you know, that has this chin here, that has like this kind of V-shaped button, that has two dials, one for music navigation, one for the volume, and it has vacuum tubes inside of here. That's the Korg new tubes right here. That actually sounds like a tube, you know? It actually sounds pretty warm. So it's a pretty unique player, has its own operating system. The only thing is the UI is a bit laggy. Yeah, so it could be more responsive, but other than that, it is a kind of unique player, so that's why I keep it in my collection, you know. I have a tube-based player here with kind of a unique design. Gotta have it for my collection. I forgot to talk about the specs and the price of this. So this came out for, originally the original N8, the stainless steel version, came out for, I believe, $3,300 back in 2018. So that would have been one of the priciest digital audio players in the market. And this brass black limited edition version retailed for $3,700 US, making it probably the most expensive player on the market back then. So yeah, it's fairly high end. The DAC inside of it it's using two Asahi Kasei AKM AK4497. So that's the flagship DAC back then for Asahi Kasei. Still really performant today, you know. AK4497 is very highly regarded even today. So yeah, pretty nice sounding DAC inside of it. It's got two of them. And I think power output is like 400 milliwatts on the balanced, I would say. Maybe like, yeah, 250 or something on the unbalanced. Not too powerful, but still enough to drive, you know, most things on the market, I would say, for IEMs and the full size. So yeah, overall, keep this as kind of like a very unique flagship back in the day. Okay, so next up is the Lotoo Poggle Touch, which is from the Chinese company Lotoo. Not really well known, I would say, among audiophiles as some of these other brands, but but Lotoo is like, if you're like really deep into the DAP market and you're looking for like really like nice high-end DAPs, then you might have heard of Lotoo. Yeah, they're not quite as popular as the Sony or even Cayin, but yeah. I mean, if you dig deep enough, you know, people will know about Lotoo. So they don't release DAPs very often, but the Poggle Touch might be my main like daily driver DAP because it just has everything. Like, it's so nice and compact and comfortable. I know it's kind of on the thick side, but hey, you know, a lot of flagship digital audio players are. And the interface and everything is really nice to use, and it sounds great. Yeah, we can take a look at basically the specs and things here. So retailed originally for $3,200 back in 2018. So really it was kind of competing with the N8 back then. For these two were like two of the top digital audio players back in 2018. It also has an AK4497, although it only has one of them. So the Cayin N8 has two, plus it has a 2 power inside of it, right? This doesn't have 2 power. It only has one AK4497. However, I do not think that the sound quality of this is any worse than the N8. I think they're actually roughly equal in terms of sound quality. Just that the N8, because of the tube output, is going to sound a bit more warm, and this one is going to sound more reference. So yeah, I do like the reference sound from the Lotoo Poggle Touch. The dial is really, really nice. It's got this nice clicky textured dial here. Really nice. 4.4 millimeter balanced, of course. So yeah, of course, just use all your modern IEMs and headphones with it. 3.5. You got your standard media playback controls here. So that's all pretty standard buttons on the side. And just says, yeah, Poggle Touch on the bottom. You have a full-size SD card slot, which is interesting, and a USB-C here. So that's really it. But it's a nice aluminum, so it doesn't feel heavy or anything. Nice to carry, and I'll show you guys how responsive this is. So it boots up just like as a custom operating system, and it boots up just like that. Super fast. When I load my SD card inside, I think it takes only a few seconds to read everything. So I have like 20,000 songs, and it loads all 20,000 songs within like 10 seconds, I swear. It's like got the fastest loading time of any music player that I've experienced. So that's why I use this as my daily driver DAP, because this is so responsive. And really, when I'm using something to you know, play music on the go and just daily driving, I want something responsive. You know, the navigation is the most important. I know some of these other ones have some nice features, but yeah, if I'm just want to play songs on the go, I want something responsive, and the Lotoo Poggle Touch is the most responsive out of all these. So yeah, like if I go to songs here, like I can just easily go through all this. Like this is 20,000 songs here, right? Or near 20,000, like, and it just loads them all instantly. It's so fast. Like you guys saw the search on the Cayin, right? Like that crappy T9 search. Here you just have to pull down from anywhere and you can do a search, right? So if I want to search for new jeans, yeah, and it just appears just like that. It's so fast. Yeah, so all I get is I get the artist, I get the album, songs, everything just appearing like almost instantaneously. And it's just the usability thing with the Lotoo. You know, that's why it's my daily driver. It's the usability is the best out of all my digital audio players, I'd say. So yeah, it's just super responsive. It's got its own custom operating system, which is based on Linux, I think. Yeah, and if you go to let's see. Oh, you should probably go to something with an album cover here. So let's select like this one. Okay, yep, so you guys can see the album cover. The music player is fairly basic, but it works well. So that's all that matters, right? Okay, add to playlist and everything. Now the only thing about the Lotoo that I think maybe it could be better, it does have a parametric EQ, you know? So the built-in settings are kind of, I think they could be like they could give you more, and it could be like better described. Like sweet, what's dental, right? I don't know what dental is. And style 701, style 9 diffuse field. I think these could be better labeled, but it does have a pretty powerful parametric EQ though inside of it. So you do have that. But yeah, overall, there's not much to complain about. It's a really nice player. Super responsive, super fast, sounds really good. In fact, I would say it sounds like 90 to 95% as good as any of the flagship DAPs today. I was comparing it with my Astone Current SP3000M. And yes, the SP3000M with the quad 4499EX DACs, yes, it does have a bit of a blacker background, and you know, in terms of distortion and everything, less noise, yes, it does have that. But in terms of the musicality and soundstage width and overall, like how much I enjoy it, I think the Lotoo Pod Touch actually went ahead. So yeah, the performance wise, like I would say still looks like 90% of that of the top highest end flagship DAPs today. And the musical performance and soundstage width of the Poggle Touch is, I think, is still like up to par or better than a lot of the music players today, you know, the top end DAPs. So yeah, and it has this nice flashing LED there too. So yeah, overall the Poggle Touch is my go-to daily driver DAP. You know, it excels in pretty much every area: sound quality, usability of the interface, portability, build quality. It just excels in pretty much every area. So yeah, Poggle Touch is pretty much my main driver now. All right, so next up is the Hiby or Hiby RS6. This came out in 2021, and I pretty much bought it the same year for the full price, actually, of like $1,400 US. So it was a pretty expensive purchase at the time, and I still have it. It's fairly unique in the sense that it runs full Android 9, and it has an R2R DAC inside of it. So R2R is a different type of DAC architecture. So most DACs, I would say, is like AKM or ESS Sabre or Cirrus Logic. They're running Delta Sigma architecture, which is a different type of architecture. And R2R uses resistor ladders, which is a more custom architecture, I would say. So the R2R DAC in this is Hiby or Hiby's own design. Is called the Darwin architecture and has a very warm sound to it. So it sounds almost like a tube. A little bit different, but it does sound like warm like a tube, especially on the bass warmth. So yeah, it's still pretty unique sounding, and yeah, I still keep it around. I've had this one for a long time. If you guys really want to see how much damage this one has done, you can see how much I've used it, because wow, this thing, like, it's basically relic at this point because I used it so much. But yeah, I think the reason I've kept with this one is because, like, first of all, the size, yes, it's a little bit bigger than Lotoo, but it's also slightly thinner as well. So I would say this is probably the most I'll go in terms of DAP size. Like anything bigger than the RS6 I probably wouldn't want, because I think this is probably the biggest I'll go. Yeah, volume dial here is pretty nice, you know, decent. Not as big as the one on the Lotoos, but still okay. Power button and media playback controls on the side here, and SD card slot here. And bottom is actually, it's pretty convenient, because just like with Cayin's DAPs, they have dedicated line out. So you got the powered 4.4, which is balanced, of course, 3.5 USB-C, and you got the balanced line out for 4.4 and 3.5. So you don't need to actually switch it in the software. You can actually just go right here if you need the line out. And yes, it is pretty worn out, so that's why I keep the case on. But yeah, this runs full Android 9 here. Like I said, retailed for $1,400 back in 2021. And yeah, custom R2R DAC. And the output power, it drives 700 milliwatts, I would say, on the balanced. I think I forgot to talk about that for the Lotoo. The Lotoo drives about 500 milliwatts on both the unbalanced and balanced output. But the Hiby, or Hiby, drives, I would say, 400 milliwatts, I would say, on the unbalanced, and 700 on the balanced. So, yeah, it's pretty powerful, and I think out of all these, it's probably my most powerful DAP. And this runs full Android, so you can just install like any app that you want onto it. That makes this very versatile. So I got like YouTube, Spotify, Tidal, Apple Music, Pandora, Musiccast. I got all the HEOS I got a lot of my streaming stuff on here, and my main music player is the Hiby Music or Hiby Music, and this music player is really nice. You can download it for any Android phone or platform, but it's pretty nice. I have a lot of songs on here, like again, like 20,000 songs here, and yeah, it's loading all these album covers here. Yeah, a little bit laggy here because I just have so much stuff on here, so many songs. But overall, it's a good experience, yeah. So here, if I go into artist view, it's a lot faster. Yeah, because I just have so much stuff on here. So overall, yeah, pretty satisfied with this. Because I usually like don't really scroll like this. Like I just want to search, you know. And if I search, then it's easy, you know. Just search for the song I want, and then it'll come up. Album, artist, genre. No, it'll all come up. It's very easy to use. So I do like the Hiby or Hiby Music app. Yeah, I can go for playlist. I can go for like, this is a title if you want to go there. The Hiby Link controller, you can go there. I know the N8 actually is Hiby Link enabled, so I can use that. You can download it for any Android platform, but of course, this being a Hiby Music player, it'll come with it pre-installed, so that's good. Yeah, so overall, the sound quality, like I said, it's an R2R DAC, so it's got a different sound than most of these other DACs. This is Hiby's in-house, so yeah, it sounds definitely on the warm side, especially very warm bass on this one. So it sounds like noticeably different. Plus, yeah, running the full Android and everything, that's why I keep it. No, and I've used it for a while, so it's like, you know, the condition is not that great. So it's not like exactly I can like sell it for much anyways. So anyways, I keep the Hiby RS6 because it's a R2R DAC and full-blown Android 9, which makes it great for streaming stuff. Okay, so next up is the Moondrop Miad 01, which is actually a smartphone, but it's also a DAP at the same time. So the Miad 01 is designed to be both a digital audio player and a smartphone. And this retailed for $400, I think, or $450, and came out recently, 2024. So yeah, and it runs full Android. This is full Android 13. So again, just like with the Hiby, you can install whatever apps that you want onto it from Android and Google Play Store. So it's good for, like, you know, if you want to stream or just watch YouTube or something like that, you can install anything on. I installed Hiby Music on it because, like I said, I'm familiar with this app, and it's really good. And yeah, like searching is super fast, and I can load whatever on it super fast. Actually, the CPU might be better than the one on the Hiby, so it's actually even faster and more responsive. Yes, in terms of size, this is the biggest display out of all my digital audio devices here, 6.7 inch, but it is also OLED. So, you know, the reason why I bought this one is because I wanted to have a digital audio player where it has like OLED display and I can watch like nice movies and stuff on it. And in terms of being a smartphone, it has 4.4, right? So this is the only smartphone that I know of that has 4.4 balanced input. You know, most smartphones, you know, even if they have an input, they only have 3.5. So I found that, yeah, basically that's the selling point of this one, right? It doesn't have dedicated media playback controls, and it has the standard smartphone volume rockers here. It does have micro SD card slot down here, which is nice. So yeah, 256 gig built in, plus micro SD card slot, plus the 4.4, and OLED display. That kind of attracted me to this player, and the price isn't too bad, you know, and I use it to watch movies essentially, because it's like, okay, if I want to watch movies using my in-ear monitors and my full-size headphones, I have a 4.4 bounce connection, right, for those. I don't want to swap out to a different cable just for watching on my smartphone, so I want to get a smartphone that has 4.4. This one with the DAC actually is not bad. It's CS43131. That's an entry-level DAC, but well, it's technically, I mean, Cirrus Logic DACs tend to be entry level, even though it was their former flagship, and it sounds pretty decent, you know. But yeah, mostly I use this one for like watching movies and stuff. So it's like if I want to watch a movie, I want to listen to the sound and everything using my balanced connections. You know, like I have in-ear monitors and full-size headphones that use the 4.4 balanced cable. I don't want to use a dongle. I don't want to carry around an extra dongle for my smartphone just for that. I just want to, you know, be able to just watch on a device without using a dongle, right? And Moondrop Miad 01 is the only smartphone out there that has a 4.4, or you can say it's one of the only digital audio players out there with an OLED display. Yeah. So that's why I got it. So I think overall it fits its kind of niche use purpose, I guess. So I have a niche use purpose for it, which is that I want to watch movies with an OLED display and using my 4.4 balance connector without using a dongle or anything. So that's kind of the niche use case there. Okay, so oh yeah, output power of this is not that strong. It's maybe actually it's decent. It's like maybe 400 milliwatts or something. So it's decent, not like too strong though. Okay, next up, actually I believe this is actually the most powerful, believe it or not, even though it's the smallest. So this is the newest app. It just came out at the end of 2025 last year. So yeah, it's super new. It's by Onix, which is a Shanling brand. It's a brand licensed by the Chinese company Shanling, who makes many digital audio players, which by the way, if you guys don't know Moondrop, I forgot to talk about this brand. Moondrop makes a lot of in-ear monitors and wireless earbuds, I would say. And they're known for making affordable stuff. But Onix and Shanling, yeah. So Shanling, Chinese audio company, they're known for making a lot of digital audio players, and they make some earbuds as well. But Onix is their brand that they license from the UK company Onix, and they use it for their kind of more premium players, I guess. But this one's not too expensive either. This is the cheapest Onix player that they make. The XM2 just came out recently. $430, I believe, is what it retails for. Has a flagship, very new chip, the Cirrus Logic 4308P. I believe. Yeah, so the CS4308P, which is Cirrus Logic's newest chip, it uses that. And the output power, you will not believe this, but okay, unbalanced is only 200 milliwatts or something, but the balanced output is 800 milliwatts, which makes it actually the most powerful out of all these. It's even more powerful than my RS6. My RS6 only has 700 on the balance, so this is 800 on the balance. Believe it or not, even though this is like the smallest out of all these, it's super pocketable and yeah, very, very easy to hold in the palm of my hand. But it's actually the most powerful. It's got 800 milliwatts of output. That's incredible, right? And the volume dial is actually down here, which is interesting. I think that's an Onix thing, but yeah, it's not on top. It's actually down here. And the USB-C port instead and micro SD is actually on top. So it's almost like it's reversed. You know, I keep getting confused. It's like I keep thinking micro SD USB-C on the bottom and volume dial on top. And you know, the jacks are usually on top, but with Onix DAPs, it's like reversed. You know, the volume dial, jacks are on the bottom, and the micro SD and the USB-C are on top. So a little bit reversed, but yeah, interesting design as well. I do like it. It's got the physical controls here. Media playback controls are actually on the front of the device. So it's kind of like a throwback to the 2000s MP3 players in that way, and a custom function button, which is essentially the home button. So yeah, and you turn it on by pressing in the volume dial. And the interface here, it's a custom operating system here. So it's not Android or anything, but it is actually very responsive. So I haven't had much issues with it. So yeah, custom operating system. You can pull down from the top, you get some Android-like settings here. And yeah, overall you can like navigate all songs here. It's very, very smooth and responsive, so I haven't had any issues with that. You can do search here, no problem. And yeah, you can just go to your player, which is this. You can press the function button to go back home. Yeah, go by artist here. Yeah, it's all very smooth and responsive, so I don't have an issue with the operating system, even though you can't really install your own apps onto it, except for Tidal's the only streaming app on here. But if you want Spotify or Qobuz, it's not on here. But that's fine because I don't really stream much anyways. So the music player, you can go here and go back home like this. So very easy. You can even look at your most frequent, your most recent, most recently added. That's pretty convenient. Yeah, and it's okay, you know. You have a decent interface right here. Simple, but effective, you know. Get all the song tracks information like that. Cover, if you want the VU meter for a more vintage look, you can go with that. So overall, I think Onix XM2, I'm pretty satisfied with it. For 400 bucks, probably one of the best value digital audio players you can get on the market because this sounds really good. You know, the sound quality of this is definitely on a higher level than the Moondrop because the Moondrop uses the CS43131, their previous flagship. And plus, this being a smartphone, I think they're not like tuning it exactly like a pure digital audio player. Whereas this one is a pure digital audio player. all the architecture and stuff is geared for like pure music listening. So yes, the CS4308 sounds really nice on here. I would say it's on a higher level than most of these except for the N8 and the Lotoo, because these are using flagship 4497s. RS6 is just kind of like its own thing. But overall, yeah, 4308P will sound, I would say, probably superior to these three right here, I would say, just in terms of like technicalities, details, and everything. So yeah, it's a very good DAC. Interface is very smooth and responsive. It's got a lot of output power, 800 watts, 800 milliwatts on the balanced. So not really too much to complain about. Size is really nice. Yeah, the only thing is, like, if you're into streaming and stuff, okay, you can't install your own apps onto it. It's got a custom operating system, but it's okay for me. You know, I don't really stream. But all in all, it's nice. You know, and then yeah, physical controls here, they all work fine. Yeah. Not too much to complain about with the XM2. I think for the size and the price, it's quite impressive. And I keep it around as basically it's, you know, the size and compact form factor. I just want to keep something a little bit more unique looking around, and this thing being a little bit, you know, it's square looking and easy to carry around, so it's a nice one. So that's why I have all these DAPs here as part of my collection. So that's it, guys. If you were to ask me which one is the best sounding objectively, I would say either the N8 or the Lotoo Pod Gold Touch with the flagship AK4497. And which has the best UI? It's probably the Lotoo Pod Gold Touch still, although the Onix XM2 comes close. I think it's still the Lotoo Pod Gold Touch. It's just super fast. It had everything, indexing songs, loading up, booting up, searching, everything is super fast. And really those are the two most important things when I look at a music player is navigation and operating system and sound quality, right? Now, which one has the highest output power? It's actually the XM2 with the 800 milliwatts of output power. So that's surprising, but it is actually the most powerful out of all these. And which one is most portable? Yes, again, XM2. Obviously, look at the size, right? In terms of functional usability with the physical controls, I would say even though the N8 is actually really unique with the dual dials, it's really unique, but I'm still gonna have to go with the Lotoo. Lotoo is just, yeah, really easy to use. Yeah, dial is really nice and clicky and easy to press buttons right here. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Lotoo. I mean, the RS6, yeah, the thing is, the buttons, I don't like this style, which is kind of like the square style. I know Aston Kern does that too, but don't really like it too much. Prefer to have the rounder buttons here. I think that's a little bit easier for me to hit. So, yeah, best display. Well, actually the XM2, I forgot to talk about this. It's OLED. Yeah. So it's a modern player with an OLED display. So that makes the album covers look really nice too. And this black background's like pure black, you know? So OLED display, XM2 has it, Moondrop has it, and the Planu has it. So those are probably the best displays. Of course, the Moondrop would be the best if you just want the largest area to watch stuff. Well, yeah, so battery life is probably a consideration as well for a digital audio player, right? Because, you know, you're going outside with it and stuff. In my experience, I think just out of the box, brand new, I think the Cowon Planu S would win it, because Cowons I've been known to have really good battery life, up to like 30 hours or something like that. So yeah, the Planu stuff that I've had, even the small like Planu D3 that I had before, they've actually lasted a really nice like long time. So in terms of battery life, I think it had to be the Planu stuff. All the Cowon's Planu's players have lasted quite a while, so that's actually pretty impressive. Sony Walkman does well as well. You know, this actually lasts a surprisingly nice amount of time. Lotoo Pod Gold Touch, pretty decent battery life too. I mean, these are all custom operating systems, so that maybe helps it a bit. So yeah, in terms of battery life, that's what I would say. I think Planu S wins that one. Okay, so regarding the ones I use the most, so the Hifiman is obviously, this is just for a collection. Like, I would never use this as a daily driver. It's first of all, it doesn't work, but even if it did work, yeah, it's just kind of a novelty at this point. Like back in the day, sure, you know, back in the day when people were more used to using these analog scroll wheels and stuff, but I think it'd just be too much of a hassle to use now. The UI is definitely not quite up to date as some of these other ones, so it's definitely more of a hassle to use, plus the proprietary charging port as well. I forgot if I talked about that, proprietary charging port. So it's a bit annoying. So yeah, I wouldn't really use the Hifiman. That's really just for collection. The N8 is more for desktop use, I would say, like at home use, because it's like, honestly, it is on the hefty side, and the UI is really not that responsive. But it's a very interesting looking player. So again, this is probably more for a collection thing. I wouldn't really use this one as much, but for the tube sound, yeah, sometimes at home, if I want to get that tube warm sound, then I might use that. Moondrop is mostly for watching movies, so basically when I travel, I might use the Moondrop, because like the time when I have watching movies is mostly when I'm on a plane, so I'll use that when I'm traveling. The RS6 is like, if I want to have that warmer R2R type of sound, especially like a warmer bassy type of sound, then I might go for the RS6. And also this is the one I use the most for streaming. So yeah, like if I'm streaming to my my amplifier at home, right, using Chromecast or HEOS or MusicCast, then I'll go with the R6. This one mostly for streaming at home, but also if I want the warmer R2R sound sometimes. Yeah, my top three in terms of usability, like the ones I use the most daily, the Lotoo Poggle Touch, like I said, this is the one is my go-to, you know. It just has everything. It's got the fast, responsive interface, easy to use. In terms of the physical functionality, sounds really nice, so not much to complain about. Lotoo Poggle Touch is my number one. Then number two is like, sometimes I go with the XM2, you know, if I want just to have something a little bit nice, light, and portable. Sometimes I might want to go with the Sony Walkman, because the interface is pretty good too, and sounds pretty musical. I think out of all these DAPs, this one is the one that's, to me, the most musical sounding, right? It's very dynamic and engaging. So if I want to have that sound signature, I go with the Sony. So Lotoo Poggle Touch first, and then followed by the Walkman. The XM2 is kind of a toss-up depending on what I want. XM2 because it's nice and light and portable. The sound is like a more neutral and detailed, but the Walkman more like engaging and musical sounding. Both have really nice interfaces too. You'll notice that the interface is really important to me. Like Lotoo Poggle Touch, XM2, Walkman all have pretty nice responsive interfaces. The Cowon Planu S is interesting. Like the interface is just okay. I would say it's like decently responsive, but not quite as responsive as these three. So I kind of use this one like sometimes, especially if I want the jet effect sound, then I think that's pretty interesting, having the jet effect DSP, but mostly I don't really use this one all that much. Yeah, the interface on the Cowon Planu S is just okay. It's not terrible, but it's not as great as the Walkman, the XM2, or the Lotoo. So yeah, that's what I would say, which ones I use the most. Definitely Lotoo, then either the XM2 or the Walkman. And then the Hifiman is just for collection. The N8 rarely, if I just want to have the tube sound, but mostly it's all for collection. Yeah, and then Moondrop and R6 for specific purposes, and the Planu S, yeah, sometimes. So that's what I would say. I'll actually have a sound comparison test coming out where I'm comparing all of these in terms of sound quality using the same song. So if you guys can tell a difference or not, I'll try to volume match everything. And yeah, except for the Hifiman, of course, because I can't get the songs working on that one. But yeah, for the rest, I can have a video up comparing the sound quality and some other DAPs I've tried as well, so you guys can see if you can hear a difference or which one you like best. Let me know in the comment section. And yeah, that's it, guys. This is my DAP collection as of beginning of 2026. Happy New Year's, guys. All right, that's it, guys. Let me know in the comment section below which ones you like best. And as always, thanks for watching. Alright, so now it's March 2026, and actually in just a few months I have replaced several of the DAPs that I have shown earlier in this video. And yeah, I just added a few new ones and I replaced some other ones. So let me go over it again. So the Hifiman 901S has been replaced with the 901U. So the 901U version is technically not quite as good. Like the 901S supposedly sounds better. It looks almost exactly the same as the 901S that you guys saw before, but the U version has this gain switch, which has a low-high gain switch, which you guys might think might be better, you know, but for me, I don't detect a noticeable difference when I use the switch anyways, so not a big difference there. But according to Hifiman, the S version is a little bit better sounding. because the internals and the caps and resistors or whatever that's inside the 901 U is almost the same as the 901. It's just the externals look like the 901S. But the reason why I got the 901U instead of the 901S is because the 901S I had before wasn't working properly. So this one actually works. So I'm going to show you guys this device actually booting up and working. So that's the important thing, you know. It's like, yeah, the 901S technically is better, better sounding according to Hifiman, but it didn't work when it came to the SD card reader, at least not the one I have. So yeah, I just got like a defective unit, and it's hard to find these units. So instead of getting another 901S, because they're kind of hard to find, I just got 901U instead, because this is what I could find. So yeah, it's in Chinese, but basically it works now, and yeah, you guys can see it in action here. Has a scroll wheel here, which is reminiscent of an iPod, of course, but feels very, very premium and well built and everything. Like, yeah, this thing's like pure aluminum, and does have the replaceable amp card, just like the 901S does and the 901 does. Yeah, this volume switch up here is pretty unique to the Hifiman. I don't see any other DAPs using it. Just a really unique volume dial right here. I know it goes up to 8 here, but technically it's more than 8 because it has a few more steps in between. So anyways, it's a pretty unique volume dial. It has 3.5 normal and 3.5 balanced. So yeah, there actually was a 3.5 balanced as well. So that's a different balance standard. It's no longer used much anymore. Now 4.4 is the most balanced, the most used balance standard. But back in the day, when I think around 2015, when this thing came out, yeah, this was released end of 2014 and early 2015, I think. So balanced 3.5 was a thing back then. So yeah, it's kind of a little bit harder to find adapters and converters for it. I mean, you could, but it's just kind of annoying overall to use the balanced 3.5. So I generally just use the single-ended. And yeah, you guys can see the interface here is this Taichi U 2.0 UI, I believe, which is upgraded from the original 901. So yeah, and it's upgraded from the 801 as well. So if you go to the SD card view, which this one does have a working SD card slot, which is the important thing. Yeah, and then I can see my sample files I put in here. Like if I want to see Bruno Mars, for instance. Oops, not him, not this one. Bruno Mars, yep. And then let's see. Yeah, if I want to go to here, for example, yep, click on it, and there it is. And yeah, this thing has the same ES9018 K2M DAC inside of it that the 901S has. So yeah, the differences between this and the 901S I think are minimal, but apparently the 901S is still better sounding according to Hifiman. They look exactly the same, and internally they use the same DAC, but apparently, yeah, the 901S is still a little bit better sounding, I guess. It does not have the upgraded from 901 text down here at the bottom, so this is something that's unique to the 901U, and it doesn't have the gain switch. But other than that, it looks pretty similar. Yeah, hardware buttons work, of course. You know, play, pause, forward to backward tracks. So this is going forward and backwards. And of course, you can press home to go back to the home screen. And yeah, overall, you can go by artist here. The same thing, we can go check out Bruno Mars again, or Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah, and it shows the album art and everything. And yeah, sample rate and everything. Actually, this UI is not bad, you know. Overall, the UI is not bad. I know it's old school UI and everything, not touchscreen or anything like that. But you know what? Something is really just having this old school analog feel of using a scroll wheel like this is satisfying. So yeah, in this design, the original Hifiman design like this, not this unit particularly, but there's you know, the older units were copied by other DAP makers like Lotoo, for example. Lotoo's original Pod Gold was based off of the Hifiman design, as is some newer Chinese DAP makers like Hi-Fi Walker and Surfans. I think they based their designs off of the old Hifimans, actually, when you see those scroll wheels and stuff. So anyways, it's just kind of satisfying to use it, in my opinion. Of course, it's not the easiest interface to navigate, but yeah, I think the only thing is, like, compared to an iPod, you can, like, in the iPod, you can like scroll really fast, right? If you continue using it, but not for the Hifiman. You just kind of have to keep scrolling. So if you have a long list of songs, then it might not be yeah, it might not be good to use this thing, because you have to keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling until you find what you want, right? Yeah, there's no like in iPods, if you keep scrolling, it'll get faster and faster. Not the case with the Hifiman. So I can understand like some people don't like this UI, but if you don't have a lot of songs, I guess it's okay. If you have a lot of songs, then yeah, it's going to be very annoying to use this thing. And overall, the sound quality is fine. Again, this is not the 901S. I never had the opportunity to listen to the 901S since it didn't work. But the 901U, yeah, it sounds just okay. It reminds me of the Pioneer XTP300R, which I had as well, which is, I think that's a player around the same time, but that's more of a budget player. So yeah, to be honest, this thing does not sound as good as the price. Like it was like $1,500, I think, at the time for the 901S, and 901U might be similar price, but honestly, it does not sound like something that expensive. Like you compare it to like the Hi-Fi Walker H2 or whatever today, or the Surfans. Those are kind of cheap $150 budget players, right? So this thing sounds like those. This thing sounds like a modern $150 budget player. So I know that sounds like, yeah, it doesn't sound very good. It just kind of sounds as kind of like congested sounding, I would say. I mean, 9018 K2M is fine. Like that's a fine chip. I've seen it implemented in DAPs like the Opus number 2, for example, and it sounds a lot better in Opus number 2. But when it comes to this one, it just sounds a little bit more congested for me. I have it mostly for my collection, because it's just like, it's a nice unique DAP as part of a historical collection of DAPs, because Hifiman is just one of the pioneering DAP companies. They don't make DAPs anymore, but something like this, yeah, they basically invented the high-end DAP category. Before Hifiman, I don't think there was any really expensive digital audio players. They were like one of the first ones. Aston Kern actually came out later than they did. So like Hifiman came out with the first high-end digital audio players. Like at the time, everyone was just using Zunes on iPods and Creative Zens and iReverse, right? Then Hifiman created like the high-end DAP category, and then you have other makers, you know, like FiO and joining in. You have iBasil, you have Cayin, you got Aston Kern. Like all those guys came in afterwards, right? So Hifiman really is a pioneer of the DAP industry, really, the high-end DAP industry especially. So I think it's important to have a Hifiman in my collection, even if it's not really practical anymore. I mean, it's still kind of cool, right? You can swap the amp cards and stuff. I actually have an amp card that my friend gave me, and it sounds pretty good. And there's like a aftermarket industry of Hifiman amp cards that's still there. If you look for it on AliExpress, there's still a bunch of Chinese makers making these aftermarket Hifiman amp cards. So there's obviously still a kind of like a fan base for these Hifimans. It's kind of like a cult classic thing now. Because yeah, they don't make them anymore, but they do look pretty unique and kind of like a really premium version of the iPod, I would say. And yeah, historically, right, Hifiman is one of the pioneering DAP companies. So I think it's important to have one in my collection. Anyways, just wanted to show you guys that's one that's actually working now, because my 901S wasn't working. This one actually works, and sound is not so good. It sounds like a budget player today, but still, you know, just for my collection, and actually you can upgrade the amp card, it might sound better. But with the stock amp card, it did not sound that good. I know you can probably upgrade the amp card and it'll sound better, but anyways, it's not the best sounding player here, that's for sure. It's just more for collection. And then I still had the Planu S as I did before, so I don't need to show this thing again, but Cowon Planu S was their flagship player, back in 2016. Yeah, it's really unique because of the jet effect stuff that Planus have, and I especially like the S because it has a PCM 1792A DAC inside of it, which gives a really nice warm organic type of sound to it. It's a nice chip, not as high resolution as the newest AKM DACs or the ESS DACs of today, but the PCM 1792, the Burr Brown DAC inside of this thing, has a nice natural warm tonality in it that I like, and combine that with the jet effect and the fact that it's a pretty, it's a pretty portable player. I can hold it in my hand pretty easily. Yeah, this thing is it's nice, nice build quality, as always you expect from Cowon, and I believe this thing has an OLED display as well, because yeah, Cowon Planus had OLED displays, which are pretty nice. Not very common in players today. So yeah, overall pretty nice. But again, because it's an older player, this is from 2016, it does have that 3.5 millimeter balanced, just like the Hifiman does. Not a very common balanced connector today. But yeah, I would use the Hifiman and the Planu mostly for single-ended because of that. I don't have a 3.5 balanced connection. But yeah, you guys saw this one already. Okay, so instead of the Sony WM1A, I have the Sony WM1Z now. I upgraded to this one. This was the flagship Sony Walkman back in 2016 when it released. Now it looks pretty much exactly the same, except the chassis is in copper, pure copper block instead of aluminum. And the internals, I would say mostly the same. There is some internal cabling that's been upgraded. Like internally, this uses Kimber cables to wire the circuits internally, but I think everything else is pretty much the same. So you guys have seen the WM1A. I don't need to show you WM1Z because it's exactly the same in terms of the operating system. It's not, this is a first gen WM1Z. I don't have the second gen. So the first gen is its own operating system. It doesn't run Android or anything, but it's really nice and smooth. I like the operating system here. And the sound quality is really, really good. This is probably the most musical DAP I've ever heard. It's, well, not the most, actually. I have heard the WM1Z2, and then I've heard the Aston Current SP4000. Those two are pretty musical as well. But one of the most musical DAPs I've heard, anyways, at least the most musical in this collection. And not too much power. It does have 4.4 because Sony was the only DAP maker making 4.4 back then. It was the one that pushed it back then, right? Yeah, so it's a plus to be able to have 4.4 in this thing, because eventually 4.4 did end up winning the battle of the balance connectors, I guess. Yeah, interface and OS is really nice. Sound quality is amazing. Whenever I want to just sit at home and listen to a DAP for just pure sound quality, I always pick up this one. The only issue is that it's quite hefty. Yeah, this thing weighs about 500 grams, so this is like half a kilogram. So yeah, making the chassis like pure copper, yeah, it adds to the weight a lot, and that's the only thing. It's a brick. You guys can see the controls are pretty much the same as WM1A here. Yep, the previous, next, play, pause, volume buttons in power. Uses its own proprietary connector down here, because this is the first generation used the proprietary connectors. The later generations use USB-C, of course, and micro SD. Yeah, so it doesn't have too much power because that's Sony Walkmans never have too much power. They focus more on the tonality, and you don't need too much power for IEMs anyways. It's more for like if you need a DAP for like your hard to drive planar magnetics or your HD800s, then yeah. But you know, for IEMs it's fine. Yeah, overall this is my best sounding DAP, probably out of this collection. In terms of musicality, for sure. Might not be the most referenced sounding DAP, but in terms of just how pleasant it is to listen to, I always pick up the WM1Z. Oh yeah, and the cost of this, this was like $3,200 I think when it came out back in 2016, but I got it for $850 because it is in this condition, which is like a little bit used, of course, from Japan actually. Got this right from Tokyo. So, yep. This is just my best sounding DAP, but unfortunately it is heavy, so it's not a DAP I can carry everywhere with me. Okay. So W1Z. Okay, now I have another new DAP here. Is the Crystal QP2R from Chinese company Crystal here. This came out in 2018, retailed for $1,300 US, I believe. Yeah, this is actually the size of this is really comfortable. It actually reminds me of the Cowon Planu S. About the same size, and of course this has a crown sticking out, but roughly the same size and similar weight as well. Yeah, just this one has the volume crown sticking out, which is a fairly nice volume crown. It's not as clicky as on a Lotoo or on an Aston Current, but it's decent enough. And yeah, it definitely sticks out here, but it's meant to be more like a watch crown. In Crystal was trying to follow Aston Current there. And then this one was 2.5 millimeter balanced, which was common at the time, I guess. 4.4 was not fully adopted at the time. So yeah, this interface, let me show you guys. I can actually turn this one on. Yeah, current mode amplification. So this thing uses a special type of amplification called the current mode amplification that's kind of unique to this player. So on paper, this thing has less than 100 milliwatts, but in practice, this thing actually has a lot of power. It feels more like 700 milliwatts, to be honest. So it's maybe because of the current mode amplification, it feels like it has more power than it does. You got, you know, the media playback controls here, you know, play, pause, and previous and next. Back here is this high resolution, assembled in China. So yeah, Crystal these days, they don't make DAPs anymore. They're mostly well known for making amps and DACs. So just like dedicated amps and DACs, not so much digital audio players, but yeah, they used to make them. QP2R, they have a successor too, I believe, that QP2R Master, which I've never tried, but apparently the specs are the same. Internally, the DAC is a 4490, so an AKM AK4490, which is not the flagship AKM chip. However, it does very well inside of this player. You will still notice the fact that it's an AK4490 though, because it has a very warm tonality to it. The AK4490 especially is known for its warm tonality. It's called the Velvet sound for a reason. Yeah, it's not like necessarily the highest resolution, but it does very well for the price and for the time, you know? So yeah, the interface is very minimal, as you guys can see here. Very minimal. You got settings, browse files, playlists, category, and playing. That's it. You see there is a scroll wheel here, but it's not very responsive, to be honest. So I don't really use the scroll wheel. You don't have to anyways. You can just use these buttons, these touch controls down here. But yeah, the scroll wheel is not working very well. You can use the middle button to press play though. So yeah, let's see, you can do this one. Yeah, I can play something. Oh yeah, I don't have any SD card in it at the moment. But anyways, yeah, this is how the interface is like. You can bring up the settings just by pressing this from anywhere. It's a very minimalistic type of interface. No touchscreen or anything. Very minimalistic. This is like a pure music player. USB-C and micro SD at the bottom here. Yeah, overall, this is a really nice player. Actually sounds pretty good for the price. So out of the unbalanced, it doesn't sound very good at all, but out of the balanced, it actually sounds quite good. So it's very warm out of the unbalanced, and then out of the balanced, it sounds a little bit less warm. It's still kind of warm neutral-ish, but it's a little bit less warm than the unbalanced for sure, and definitely more power out of the balanced. And out of the balanced, it definitely sounds like a flagship level player, like very comparable to something like my Lotoo or the Cayin Innate I had before. So this thing was competing with DAPs that cost like $3,000 basically. Yeah, in terms of sound quality, this thing really, it was really good bang for the buck at the time actually, because it's like a $1,300 player competes with $3,000 players. I could say the same for the Opus number 2. I don't have that, but that thing came out around, what, $1,500 or something like that, $1,300, maybe around the same price as this. Also competed with players, kind of twice the price. But anyways, yeah, overall, a really nice player. The current mode amplification is pretty unique, I would say. This current mode amplification thing, yeah, kind of unique to the player. You can feel the amount of power that this player has, even though it doesn't have much on paper. It feels like it has a lot of power. It definitely has enough to drive most headphones and definitely most IEMs out there. And simple interface, but gets the job done, I guess. So anyways, yeah, Crystal QP2R, definitely overall nice form factor, good amount of power. Out of the balanced, this sounds very good. Really one of the best sounding players of its time. I think even competes with a lot of modern players today. And yeah, overall very good size and weight, I would say. So anyways, and a nice pure music audio player. You don't have any streaming on that, of course. And yeah, by the way, the WM1Z does use the S Master HX proprietary Sony DAC and amp inside of there. So Sony always uses their own DAC and stuff, so it's hard to say, you know, comparing what is exactly different between this and WM1A. Just the copper chassis and the internals are upgraded, I suppose, but the firmware is also different, and apparently the firmware makes a big difference in sound, because I did upgrade the WM1A firmware to using the Mr. Walkman WM1Z firmware, and then it sounded like 90% similar. Not 100%, but 90% similar, so the firmware actually makes a big difference, apparently. Internally, it seems like it uses something pretty similar to WM1A, though. Anyways, yeah, Sony does keep their internals a little bit more hidden, I guess, a little bit more secret. That's their own personal circuit inside of there. And it's apparently fully digital, so it only goes analog at the outputs. So like, yeah, there's no like splitting of any analog digital circuits inside of there, because apparently the S Master HX is like fully digital. All right, up next, the Lotoo Toggle Touch is the same as before. You guys have seen it before. It boots up extremely quickly, so I can easily show you guys again. It just like boots up in like less than 5 seconds, basically, and it's up. So yeah, that's what I like about it. It's very, very easy to boot up, and interface is just so fluid, so fast. I can just search for anything, you know. It's extremely fluid and fast. So yeah, this is really my daily driver DAP. It's not necessarily the best sounding DAP out of my collection. I think that the WM1Z is still the best sounding DAP here. But in terms of a good balance between performance, portability, and usability, I think the Lotoo Toggle Touch is the best here. Very nice, usable type of volume dial here. And it's got the 4.4, right? So it can work with a lot of modern IEMs and connectors. Full touchscreen, of course, that's very responsive. You know, something I cannot say for some of these things, right? Like the Cowon New S is a little bit laggy on the touchscreen. And yeah, the Lotoo is not laggy. Yeah, it's just UI is very easy to use, very responsive, right? Let's go to another track here. I'll get one with album artwork, like Dreams, for example. And yeah, there, like that one. Yeah, so it's just very responsive and easy to get going. You know, overall, really nice, you know. Just a combination of the UI, the sound quality, which is still quite good. It's the AK4497, which is a flagship AKM chip back then in 2018 when this was released. This thing was $3,000 when it came out. Yeah, I paid $1,300 for this. If you guys want to figure out how much I paid about $500 for this crystal as well, and yeah, about $650 for this Hifiman, $850 for the Sony. Cowon was about $500, and then this thing about $1,300. So yeah, because like Lotoo is still a bit expensive because a lot of people still want them, so you don't see them for sale all too much. Yeah, they have a dedicated following as well. But yeah, it's really kind of my daily driver because it's, you know, it's like it's not quite as thin as say like Quistyle or the Cowon New S when it comes to the size. Like it's still a bit thicker than that. You guys can see, like, yeah, it's definitely thicker. But the combination of sound quality plus the UI, yeah, and it's not too big or anything like that. Still very comfortable to hold in my hand. So I still use my Lotoo Toggle Touch as my main daily driver DAP. And the power is about 500 milliwatts. Not a lot, but it's okay. It's good enough to drive most headphones and most IEMs. So I'm good with it. And oh yeah, the full-size SD. A little bit annoying to have to use a full-size SD here because so many things are micro these days. But yeah, I use the full size, and of course play, pause, and everything are kind of right there on the side, just like with the Sony Walkman. Yeah, except this has a much more satisfying volume dial compared to the Sony Walkman buttons. All right. Next up is another new player I got, the Aureolus DPS-L2. This is probably the most visually striking and distinctive DAP out of this collection. Yeah, it's by Japanese IEM company Aureolus. They usually make IEMs. This is like a limited edition DAP that they made, only 999 ever made. Obviously, if you guys can tell from the form factor, it's meant to evoke the classic form factor of the Sony Walkman. So, in particular, the very first Sony Walkman that was released in, I think, '79. So, yeah, it's got the classic coloring, and just the style and everything is very evocative of the classic vintage Sony Walkman. But, yeah, this thing, I think it retailed for about $2,000 brand new, or so $2,200 brand new, back in 2021 when it came out. But yeah, I got it for $700, and it's still expensive, right? But the thing is, it's limited. It's not that easy to find. So when I saw one, I was like, okay, I better pick it up and check it out. It is very, very unique in its operation, and you guys can see here, right? So top end, we got two 3.5 millimeter out, because you can share the music with a friend if you want to. That's really unique. You don't see that done on most audio players. I think on the Marshall London phone it had that, but I can't think of many other devices that have a double 3.5 millimeter out. 4.4 balanced, you know, so it works with modern connectors. This hotline here kind of mutes it, I think. I don't use it that much, but it's kind of just there, just kind of duplicate the original Sony Walkman, but it's kind of like a mute button. Yeah, the side controls are interesting because they're meant to evoke the classic vintage Sony Walkmans of the past. So you got the previous button, next button, play button, and the stop button right here, which actually operate just like on a cassette player. I'll show you guys in a bit. Power button right here. This is a fake little, I think like a microphone thing. I think that doesn't really do anything, but it's there for kind of aesthetics, looking more similar to the original. Obviously USB-C was not on the original Walkman, but it's there here. This is interesting because they do try to duplicate this part as well, the volume controls, which is actually a volume slider, which you can use it individually for left and right. Usually, you see other DAPs do this in the software, in the OS, but here you can actually do this on the actual controls physically on the player itself, which is really cool. And it's also accurate to the original vintage Sony Walkman. Okay, and now you look at the display here, you can actually pop it up here, and you have the menu button, menu button, return button, previous, next, and enter, all for navigation. No touchscreen here. This is meant to be old school type player, so let me turn it on. And oh yeah, micro SD is down here. Yeah. So yeah, DPS L2 here. This is just show you guys how it works. I don't have a SD card in here to navigate, but you guys can at least see how it works here. So yeah, immediate menu button goes to the settings here. Yeah, and then go return and whoops, no, this thing, it does have Bluetooth actually. Yeah, so actually let me insert something in so you guys can kind of see, because otherwise you guys won't be able to see it working. So let me insert something in. Let me take out this one actually. Yeah, I'll put it in here. Okay. Okay, then I'll say inserted, updating. Yeah, so the internals of this thing, it has a ES9038 Pro DAC inside of it, which is a very neutral, detailed sounding DAC. It's a DAC I'm familiar with, having had the Acetone Current SC100 before. I know how analytical and detailed it sounds, and that's exactly how it sounds like in this player. It's very detailed and analytical and neutral sounding, which is something kind of unexpected given the form factor of this thing. Like I said in my review of this device, I kind of wish they had an AKM chip inside of this, or an R2R or something, even a PCM, a Burr Brown chip, because any of those would sound a little bit more warmer and more musical, which is like what you would expect given how this player looks. But no, it has the ES9038 Pro, which is probably the most analytical, modern sounding chip. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a jarring experience, but here it is. I inserted it. Let's look at my card here, and you can play some Bruno Mars again. Sure, why not? Yep. So once you press this, it has this cassette look to it, right? So I can close the door here, and you guys can still see the cassette look peeking out from it. So it doesn't actually play until I press the play button. So what happens is I can press the play button, and it will stay depressed, and then this thing will start playing. So you can see the cassette tape reels moving like this, which is pretty cool, right? And then you can see details about the song as well. But you kind of see like the cassette wheels moving, which is really cool. It really tries to be like the vintage Sony Walkman experience. Honestly, Sony should have made a Walkman like this. They should have made like throwback Walkman. Instead, all Sony gave us was like a dumb, well, not dumb, I shouldn't say that. Just an okay screensaver type of thing on their modern Walkmans, right? You boot up the Sony Walkman player, it has like a little cassette screensaver thing, and that's the most they give us in terms of a throwback. But Aureolus actually went all the way and gave us a player like this. Even FiiO made the Retro Mini, right? Which is another device that kind of tries to evoke the feelings of the vintage Sony Walkman. Of course, the FiiO Echo Mini isn't quite as detailed as this in terms of the recreation and everything, nor does it sound as good. But yeah. So yeah, this thing doesn't stop, so it stays depressed, right? The button stays depressed here, and it doesn't stop until I hit this stop button, and then this thing will pop back up, and yeah, the track stops. So yeah, overall very much so just like a vintage Walkman, like a cassette player, right? Press this, starts playing, and then you got that nice physicality of it, and I can press next, previous, you know. I like the tactility, right, of the buttons and everything here. Yeah, so cool, just the feeling of pressing something in, And then, yeah, it's like sometimes you miss that little tactility, right? And then you press it back up and stops. Yeah, I really miss that. It's really cool having something like this. Anyways, very, very cool player, limited edition. Definitely keeping that in my collection. Hiby RS6, you guys have seen this before. This is my only Android player of this collection. It's very, very modern. Yeah, you guys have already seen the interface in action. Don't need to show you that again, but it's basically like an Android skin. And yeah, this also has an R2R DAC inside of it, so it sounds quite warm. This probably has, I would say it doesn't necessarily have the most power. I think the Onix XM5 does here actually, but it does come close at about 760 milliwatts or something out of the balanced. Yeah, I like how it has dedicated lineouts here, so you don't need to switch it in software. It's very heavily used. Yeah, the copper has all been oxidized, but it still works. So yeah, this has been my main music player for you know, the past few years, and I still keep it in my collection, although I don't use it too much anymore because I have such, you know, so many options now. Not necessarily the best sounding either. I like, if I really want to have a nice warm type of sound, I can go back to this, right? Because it does have a fairly warm type of sound because the R2R DAC, but is not necessarily the most detailed. So yeah, it's something like sometimes I will go back to it, and obviously if I want to use like streaming apps and stuff, then I can go back to this because it runs full Android. But most of the time, yeah, I choose not to use it unless I have to use streaming apps, or if I just want a really nice warm sound, then I go back to it. But you know, in terms of the warmth, I think my D-Thin Ray actually does that a little bit better. So I realized I never showed you guys the actual music player actually playing music here in the Hiby OS here. Yeah, so on the RS6 is what it looks like. This is actually Hiby Music app, so anyone with Android can just install Hiby Music and you'll get this experience. It's a really nice music app. Of course it comes with it pre-installed, but yeah, it's got a nice album artwork here. You can see the lyrics if you want more details about the song. Very, very easy to use. You can favorite it. You can change their settings here, you know, repeat or whatever, sequence. Yeah, very easy to use controls. Dial here is okay, I guess. It's kind of a smaller dial, but you know, it works. Has a lot of stops, and yeah, you got your playback controls there. Overall, you know, it's a nice, easy to use app. It's still, like, in terms of the UI, it's actually one of the best here in terms of the UI. So very easy to get anything, you know, searching and everything is very easy. So yeah, pretty much I would say the Lotoo is still a bit faster, but that's because it runs a custom operating system. This one, it does run Android, but still very fast, you know, just a little bit slower than the Lotoos, but comparable, I would say. So yeah, in terms of operating system, this is really nice. It's just that, yeah, this is actually, like, I wouldn't say it's like that big, but compared to some of these other players, this is on the bigger side. And again, like, the sound quality is good, but it's a little bit too warm for me, and it's not actually that resolving compared to some of these other ones. So that's the issue with the R2R DAC inside of here. Like the higher end Darwin R2R DAC inside of their flagship RS8 would definitely sound a lot better. And yeah, I got this for about $1,300 when it came out. I think this was back in 2021. So it retailed for $1,400 originally. Like, nowadays you can get it very, very cheap because it's old and it's not really worth much anymore. But back in the day, I got it for $1,300. I almost paid full price for it. So yeah, anyways, yeah, I use this as basically if I need my streaming services and stuff, then I'll use this one. Okay, so yeah, if I need like a warmer DAP or warmer sound, I actually go for the D-Thin Ray Prelude DTR1 Plus. So this thing came out, I think, in 2022-ish, around there. And it's by this boutique DAP maker that doesn't make too many DAPs, but they do make some. Also makes some amplifiers and DACs and stuff like that. But they're not too big of a name. They're called D-Thin Ray, based in Shenzhen, I think. And they made this thing. And actually I saw this in Linsol back in the day. I kind of wanted to get it, but then, you know, it was so new at the time and not a lot of people knew about this brand. So I kind of held off on getting it. I got the Hiby R6 instead. But now I finally got a chance to get this thing, and it's actually pretty good. So it is very, very basic in terms of like what it's trying to do. It's very back to basics, right, in terms of what it's trying to do. Because I mean, these two things couldn't be more different, even though they both kind of have a warm tonality. This thing has an AK4490 DAC chip inside of it, just like the Quiz style, so it actually has some tonality similarities to the Quiz style, the QP2R. But yeah, these two couldn't be more different in terms of like just like what they're giving you. So this thing's very, very fully featured. You know, full Android. You can run any app on it. Interface is very smooth and responsive. And full touchscreen, of course. This thing though is just a pure music player. It can't install any other apps on it. It's got a small display, no touchscreen, doesn't even have a balanced out. It only has a 3.5 and a line out. So yeah, no balanced out. So this thing is like it's a throwback to like the 2000s era MP3 players, like with the Creative Zens and stuff. But he doesn't even have a touch strip like those. So it's like it's like a throwback 2000s MP3 player almost. But it sounds quite good actually. And I really like the size of it. It's so compact, very, very compact and portable. And this thing has a special battery system inside of here. So if you guys look down here, this is not really a micro USB. I mean, it looks like it, but it's actually a proprietary charger. And it's charging this dual battery system inside of this thing. One's powering just the analog part of the circuit, one's powering just the digital part of the circuit. So it's got a proprietary battery powering system inside of here. Yeah, so the power system inside of here is like custom designed for this unit. It has its own operating system running on Linux. Micro SD here. Strange controls, I would say, because like, yeah, the weird thing about this one, weird thing about this one, oops, keeps wanting to focus on the back. Here we go. Yeah, the weird thing about this one is that the minus button is a lot bigger than the plus button when adjusting the volume. I don't know why. Why is it different sized? I don't know. But just a minus, a plus, and a power button here on the side. Micro SD too. But yeah, let me boot it up for a bit. In fact, let me put this thing back so you guys can see. Yeah, it's very easy to navigate. So basically once I pull it in, it's not going to take much time to scan it at all. Okay. And that's it. Okay. I don't think it takes much time to even scan that. There we go. Just updated the database. Okay, so it's kind of doing that in the background. Anyways, yeah, it's a small display. It's like a 2.5 inch. Again, it's a throwback to like the days of the iPod video and the, well, this thing doesn't play video, I should say. iPod Mini and the Creative Zens back then that had 2.5 inch displays. This is kind of a throwback. Very, very simplistic interface here. All songs, artists, favorites, browser settings. Yeah, so if I can just like go to artists here, again, I can try to find Bruno Mars again here. And this is new album, right? Okay. Yep. And then yeah, let's just start playing it. And I'll have the album cover right here. It has some basics about the music track, but it's very, very basic in terms of its functionality. Start stop here. Yep. And then going to next track or previous track is actually pressing the up and down buttons here once you start playing music. And then if you press this one here, actually doesn't do anything once you're in the player. You can go back out just by pressing the left button here. Yeah, and then pressing this button will actually scroll down on the page. You can just scroll down just by manually doing that, but if you wanted like scroll down fast, you can use this button to on the right to scroll down fast. But yeah, very, very back to basics, I would say, for this thing. It actually sounds quite good. I would say, like, compared to the Quiz style, I think is probably the closest comparison, because both are using the same chip, the AK4490. Both are pure music players that use their own operating system. Very back to basics, essentially, for both of them in terms of the display and everything. No touchscreen, all physical controls. I guess this one has like haptic feedback on the touch buttons, but yeah, this thing has more power. The QP2R has more power for sure. It's got that current amplification thing going for it. In terms of the sound, I think out of the balanced tier and the unbalanced tier sounds pretty close, I would say. So yeah, D3 sounds quite good. I would say maybe I still prefer the D3 a little bit more, but they sound pretty close. The unbalanced doesn't really compare out of the quiz style. It's not very good. But if you compare the balanced out of this, and you know this thing doesn't have a balanced, but just the unbalanced, yeah, I'm impressed. This thing for $1,000 MSRP back in the day, I paid 500 for this one. Yeah, 1,000 MSRP though. This thing probably sounds about as good as a $2,000 player, I would say. Yeah, so it definitely punches above its price. So pretty good. And I really do like the size. It's just so compact, right? And it's so no frills, you know, just so easy just to get to my music. Yeah, I mean, no searching, no touchscreen. It's again a throwback to a 2000s era MP3 player, except it's much better sounding than a 2000s era MP3 player. So yeah, it's like a throwback to a Zune or an iPod. Okay, and now the Onix XM5. You guys can see no longer have XM2, right? So I upgraded from the XM2 to the XM5. So the XM5 is like the bigger brother of the XM2. The XM2 was like this. It was like, you know, bottom half was like cut off. It was like this, you know. But yeah, XM5, very similar interface to the XM2. It is the same interface actually. So you guys have seen the operating system in the XM2. Pretty much the same on the XM5 here. So I don't need to re-show you guys anything here. Yeah, so operating system, same as the XM2. The major difference is that the physical controls are a little bit different, I would say, but similar because they're still on the front of the player. Yeah, I got like previous track, play pause, next track, and the custom function button that you can program. I usually program it just to go home. Power button just by pressing this dial in. Dial feel is fine, you know, not too bad. Feels kind of similar to the quiz style actually, so it's not too bad. And kind of unique in its design actually. This thing feels very rugged. Yeah, it feels very solid too, so it's got a good amount of weight to it. It's got a good size to it as well. So yeah, it's got like this industrial type of look to it. There we go. Yeah, it got a very industrial type of look to it, very rugged looking. But overall, very nice size, you know. Definitely something you can easily hold in your hand. And uniquely to Onix, the jacks are on the bottom here. So the 4.4 is on the bottom. This version is an MP audio modded version, so it actually blocked out the 3.5 because it added some more mods to the internal circuit. Normally you have 3.5 here on the dial here, as well as the power button, and then on top is where you have the USB-C and the micro SD. So definitely a little bit different because usually this would be on the bottom. Usually it'd be reversed, right? So usually USB-C and micro will be on bottom and this stuff will be on top. But yeah, anyways, this player sounds very good. Probably sounds like this thing is another one that punches above its price, I think, just like the XM2. XM2 really punched above its price, sounds like a $1,000 player. XM5, which is a $700 player, sounds more like a $2,000 player for the MP audio modded. I never tried the stock version, I don't know, but this MP audio modded version sounds as good as a $2,000 player, probably. It has a lot of power on tap. Out of the balanced, it has about 1.1 watts out of the balanced, making this probably the most powerful player out of this group here. So yeah, overall, this is the most powerful player in the group, just like with the XM2. And it has a ES9039 Pro chip inside of it, which is not actually as analytical sounding as the ES9038. Remember I said that about the Aureolus. The ES9039 sounds a bit more musical and a little bit warmer as well. So this thing sounds a little bit warm and still quite musical sounding. So in terms of sound quality, this might be one of the best in here. I think actually very comparable to my Lotoo Pod Gold Touch. In terms of resolution, might be even a little bit better. Honestly, I was thinking like if this thing didn't have the 3.5 blocked out, I might actually consider replacing the Lotoo with this thing. This thing is kind of a pure music player as well. It doesn't really have Android or anything. Actually it has Tidal, but like I don't stream anyway, so I don't care too much about that. Interface and OS is very, very smooth. I do like the Onix operating system a lot. So in terms of like usability wise, I think these two are pretty close. Just this one is a modded version, so there's a 3.5 blocked out, and I kind of do want 3.5 for line out reasons, so that's why I still keep around the Lotoo. Otherwise, I might actually think about you know, if the 3.5 wasn't blocked, I might actually think about like using this one as my daily driver, or as my main DAP, because yeah, it sounds honestly really, really good. Like probably a little bit better than the the Lotoo, or on par or a little bit better than the Lotoo I have. And WM1Z is still not quite as good sound as the 1Z, but it's a lot more portable than the 1Z because it doesn't weigh as much. And also, yeah, I can search on the interface here, which I can't do on the 1Z. I like to have the ability to search for songs. So yeah, anyways, XM5 is really, really nice. Definitely one of the best sounding players in here, in this collection, and the most powerful as well. And also good size and well built. Okay, and finally, I have the smallest player of this collection, which is also the newest. So by the way, the XM5, the modded version, yeah, I got this for 500 bucks and retailed for about 740. And this thing came out, I think, about 2022 or 2023, maybe 2023. And then the Snowski, yeah, this is the Fire Snowski disc, which just came out at the beginning of this year, 2026. So let me show you. Actually, technically, end of last year, 2025. But it is entirely a very unique player. It is also the cheapest out of this collection by far. It only costs around 100 bucks. So yeah, it's a very cheap player, but also pretty unique in its own way as well. So let me show you guys. I'm just gonna pop in a micro SD and show you guys, as the interface is quite unique on this and pretty much is the main reason to get this thing. Yeah, so the micro SD down here. So yeah, very small player here. Got micro SD, USB-C, 3.5 and a 4.4 here. And then on the side here, got volume buttons and the power button. Actually no, volume buttons and the play pause button, my bad. On top is the power button. And scans really fast. There was a 100 scan just right there. So interface is a touchscreen here. So yeah, it's fairly responsive. And if I could go to yeah, now playing. Actually, you know what? Let's go to browse files. That's the main reason, the main thing you will be using here. And let's go back to Bruno Mars again. The new, yeah, news record. Okay. So yeah, let's play this thing. And you see what's unique about this, right? It's like a spinning record. So you can see some information about the song here. You can add it to a playlist. You can change the settings. Actually, the equalizer here. Change some other settings here. Whoops. You can change. You see lyrics. Yeah, and then go back to the playing. And yeah, you can see this player here. It spins just like a CD player or a record. I would say more like a record. A CD player does spin really fast, but yeah, kind of almost like a record player. It's like spinning right here. Pretty cool. Yeah. And I know in my original review of this thing, I said it was plastic. It's not plastic, it's actually aluminum. But the thing is, it feels almost like plastic though, because it's not like this heavy plastic, right? It's not the same type of plastic that I get in, say, the Hifiman HM901U. This thing is definitely aluminum. You can definitely feel it, right? It's very heavy, very sturdy. Same thing with the Cowon New S. You can obviously tell this is aluminum. Same thing with the Aureolus. You can definitely tell this thing is aluminum as well. Very, very solid and heavy feeling, right? Not with the Snowski. So that's why initially I didn't think this was aluminum, because it didn't feel like aluminum. It felt more like plastic because, well, very good plastic, you know? Because it doesn't have that aluminum type of feel to it, right? Yeah, like this thing, you can see that sound when I tap it, right? You can clearly tell that thing's aluminum. This thing, it taps and it feels, it responds just like plastic. So anyways, I know like some people in the comments told me this thing's actually aluminum, but you know what? It doesn't feel like it. So that's why I was easily fooled. Or maybe they're not using aluminum for the back. Someone told me they're only using aluminum for the sides or something. Anyways, yeah, it definitely looks still pretty good. Yeah, the disc. This is a very new digital audio player, and it has two CS43131 DAC chips inside of here, which are from Cirrus Logic. They're fine. I mean, they're not going to be as good sounding as some of the flagship stuff here, but they sound fine. You know, like for $100, yeah, this thing would sound pretty good still. Still fairly like neutral and detailed, and the Cirrus Logic chips generally perform fairly well. So I mean, for the price, this actually is pretty good bang for the buck, I would say. The only thing is, like, just be aware, you know, the interface here. You can change this lock screen actually as well. And then yeah, I can press play again, start spinning, stop. Yeah. So the only thing is, like, yeah, if you're looking for bang for the buck, this thing gives you good bang for the buck. Yeah, it's a $100 player. The Cirrus Logic chips inside of here sound pretty good. especially for the price, and you get a very unique type of operating system inside of here. So yeah, only thing, it doesn't have gapless playback. Streaming, it doesn't support much right now, I believe. I don't stream. Yeah, it only has AirPlay right now, and it doesn't have search either. So there's some things that are missing here. It's not like the UI is still not as good as, say, the Onix or the Lotoo, right, in terms of the UI, or the Sony Walkman for that matter, or the Hiby. But you know, for something like this, for $100, I know it looks gimmicky because it kind of is. This thing is kind of gimmicky, but it's unique, you know, and it doesn't cost much. So for me, just having this kind of completes my collection in a very fun way, I would say. So yeah. All right, so yeah, this is my updated DAP collection now. I would say that compared to before, I don't have the Moondrop anymore, because honestly, that one wasn't very good as a DAP. Didn't really offer anything that other DAPs didn't. And the Onix XM2 was upgraded to the XM5. The WM1A was upgraded to the WM1Z. The Cayin N8 is no longer here. You know, honestly, it was pretty unique because of the tube output stage. But I have actually something just as warm, which is the Death and Ray DTR1 Plus. This is actually just as warm as that output stage on that tube for the N8. So yeah, and then I have some other really unique stuff, right? So the new ones I added, of course, I replaced the 901S with the 901U because it actually works. Yeah, WM1A was upgraded to W1Z because it does sound a bit better still, even with the firmware upgrade on the WM1A. QP2R was added, and DPS L2 was added. It's just very unique. Dethan Ray, this one kind of replaced the Cayin N8 because honestly, it sounds just as warm as the tube output on the N8, but yeah, not quite as finicky to deal with, I would say, when it comes to loading songs and playing songs sometimes. XM5 is an upgrade to XM2, and then yeah, I have the snow ski disc as kind of like a fun little DAP here. So that's my collection here. If you guys want to know just in general what I think about if I were to rank them, you know, let's rank them based on sound quality. My top three would be WM1Z. Definitely very, very musical sounding DAP. Still my favorite out of all these when it comes to just pure sound quality. After that would probably be the XM5. Yeah, probably the Onix XM5, but this is an MP audio modded one, so just be aware of that. I don't have a stock version, so the MP audio mod definitely adds a bit better sound quality for this thing, which already it was pretty good. Bang for the buck according to reviews, and the MP audio mod just pushed that up. And then the Lotoo Poggle Touch after that still sounds pretty good. So that would be the top three in terms of sound quality. What about power? So XM5 would have the most power. This says 1.1 watts of power with the balanced connection. Very, very good. And then after that, probably the Hiby RS6 here with about 760 milliwatts off the balanced. And then after that is probably the Crystyle, because even though it doesn't have a lot in paper, it basically outputs a lot, you know, because it uses the current amp mode. So it's quite powerful there. Okay, what about in terms of UI? Okay, well, in terms of UI, I think this one, it would be a tie between the XM5 and the Lotoo Poggle Touch. I still think these two have both really nice UIs, and actually it's a three-way tie. This would be my top three. Hiby RS6, because this is the Android, right, and it runs Hiby Music Player, which is very good UI. So this thing is really good. For UI, of course, Lotoo Poggle Touch is really good, as I mentioned several times before, and Onix XM5 comes pretty close to the Lotoo. So it would be these three in terms of UI, and then I don't know which one I would put ahead of the other, but they're all good. The Hiby Music Player inside of the RS6, and then XM5 and Poggle Touch in terms of UI. What about in terms of the size and portability? Well, obviously the snow ski disc would win that one, because look how tiny it is, right? This thing is just microscopic. And if I wanted to just use like a little fun little DAP for just Bluetooth, you know, using wireless earbuds, if you just want to have a very minimal setup, yeah, I'll use this, pair this with wireless earbuds, and that's kind of my minimal setup, you know, no wired, and just having, you know, just a very small player in my pocket, you know, that's easy. So obviously this is the most portable, weighs almost nothing. After that would be the Dethan Ray Prelude, because it's pretty tiny as well, very compact, and reminds me of an old school 2000s DAP. And then after that, it's, well, kind of a toss-up between a lot of those. But definitely the Snowski disc and the D3 Ray in terms of portability. Overall, which one do I like? Yeah, well, I would say WM1Z is one of my favorites, and I still go to that in terms of at-home listening. And Lotoo Poggle Touch and Onix XM5 are both pretty close. So I think those would make me my top 3 in terms of, yeah, overall what I would use. Yeah, so Lotoo Poggle Touch, Daily Driver DAP, WM1Z, still my go-to for at-home listening, and then XM5, because it's still really good in a lot of ways as well, almost as good as Lotoo Touch, pretty much in every way. Has more power than Lotoo Poggle Touch, and arguably sounds a bit more resolving than the Poggle Touch does, but just the 3.5 is blocked on that one. Which one costs the most? In terms of what I paid for it, it would probably be the... it would be a tie between the Lotoo Poggle Touch and the R6. I paid $1,300 for both of these. So these two, I paid $1,300 each. That would be the most I paid for out of these. So yeah, in terms of what I actually paid, it would be the RS6 and the Lotoo Poggle Touch. Now, in terms of MSRP, that's a bit different. It's still the Lotoo Poggle Touch for $3,200, I think, when it first came out, and the WM1Z. So these two were about... yeah, 3,000, 3,200 or something around there when they first came out. So MSRP wise, these two would be the most expensive. But yeah, in terms of what I actually paid, it would be the RS6, and because I got this one pretty much brand new when it first came out, and then the Poggle Touch, which is still worth a lot because it's Lotoo and they have a cult following. So anyways, my DAP collection, 10 DAPs here. Yep. So I added some new ones, kept some old ones, replaced some other ones, upgraded some other ones. Yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, if you have any questions about any of these guys. So I think I went over most of what people would want to know about, right? Like the rankings of sound quality, the power, usability, portability, overall, price point, you know, what else you guys want to know about, right? In terms of collection, which one is the most unique? Probably the Aureolus, because I mean, just look at it, right? This is a limited edition DAP that just tried to be like a vintage Sony Walkman. Like, that's very unique. I do like having the Hifiman and the Snowski disc as well. These two are kind of unique players for my collection too. Just in terms of appearance wise, I guess. The other ones just kind of look like DAPs, but those three in particular I think are kind of unique in just in terms of their appearance. Like, yeah, the Aureolus, especially this one, will catch a lot of stares and stuff. It's a definitely conversation starter. So yeah. That's it, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'll have a comparison test coming out with all the DAPs I ever tried kind of together. Oh yeah, in terms of tonality, okay, which one sounds the warmest? The Hiby RS6, this one with the R2R DAC inside of here, would sound the warmest. Honestly, it sounds warmer than a lot of the tube DAPs that I've tried. Yeah, so most tube DAPs on the market don't really sound like they have tubes in it, except for the Cayin N8, which I had before. But even that one, I wouldn't say necessarily sounds warmer than this. Yeah, it's a different kind of warmth maybe, but yeah, out of all the DAPs on here, the RS6 sounds extremely warm. Definitely, like, if you're looking for R2R type warmth, the RS6 is one to check out. Then the Death Ray DTR 1 Plus and the Questyle and the XM5 all sound kind of warm neutral-ish, I guess. And then the Sony W1Z as well, in terms of a kind of a warm musical type of way. So RS6 is just straight up warm. And then these four are kind of just like warm, but with, yeah, like XM5, Death Ray, and Questyle is kind of like warm neutral, and then WM1Z is like warm musical, I would say. And I think the Planu S as well, because the PCM DAC inside of here. So yeah, the Planu S as well is kind of like warm musical. So yeah, these three are like warm neutral and then warm musical. Musical, by that I mean it has like kind of like organic type of dynamic sounding experience, whereas neutral sounds more like flatter, I guess. So this is like flat and warm, and this one is kind of like dynamic and warm, if that makes sense. Trying to describe my best here. And then what about just straight up neutral? Definitely the DPSL2. The ES9038 Pro inside of here is very neutral. So yeah, very neutral experience with this one. It sounds pretty analytical, which is, you know, it's weird because it looks very retro, but it actually sounds very neutral and analytical. Then the Hifiman as well kind of sounds kind of neutral analytical because the 9018 inside of it just naturally tends to be kind of like that. The Lotoo is very neutral in reference. I often use this to test a lot of IEMs because the AK4497 chip inside of here is, yeah, it's on the neutral side. It's not like the AK4490 or 4493. Those ones tend to be more of the velvet sound, right? The warm sounding AKMs. The 4497 though, not necessarily that warm. So this one is, yeah, very, just more on the neutral side. Doesn't sound warm, doesn't sound bright. It's just neutral, but still sounding quite musical in my opinion. Whereas compared to the Aureolus sounds almost like too sterile sometimes, analytical, I guess. So I don't like that about the ES9038 Pro. It's not unique to this. SC100 had the same issue. Yeah. It's neutral but and detailed, you know, but it also doesn't sound that musical. It just sounds kind of like analytical and flat. That's the issue I have with a lot of Aston current players as well with their house sound. It's a little bit too flat and analytical for me. Detailed, yes, but yeah, no, not for me. The Lotoo sounds neutral but also kind of musical at the same time. And the disc and the Hifimans both are on the neutral side, I would say, but just it sounds like it's going to sound a little bit more congested because they're just yeah, their capabilities are just not up to par with the rest of these. Let's just say, in terms of the chip. So, yeah, I'd probably just put it like that. You know, if you guys are looking for warmth, check out the RS6, and then neutral warm is the QP2R Onix XM5 Death and Ray, and then musical warm or dynamic warm would be like the Cowon Planus and the W1Z, and then like just straight up pure analytical neutral, then the Aureolus DPSL2 with the ES9038 Pro, and then musical neutral, if that makes sense, like more dynamic neutral than the Lotoo Pod Gold Touch, and then yeah, and then the Hifiman and the Snowski, yeah, the ES9018 and the CS43131 lean neutral as well. They're just not quite as detailed sounding as these two. So yeah, I'm trying to describe as best as I can. I know it's like you gotta really listen to them side by side to really hear these differences. Most people will be just like, hey, they're just DAPs, you know? All DAPs sound the same, all DACs sound the same. Well, A/B test them, let me know. I guarantee you guys will hear some differences if you A/B test them. Like people online are gonna say, if you blind test them, you're not gonna tell which one is which. But the thing is, like, I'm not gonna say, oh, I can exactly tell which one is which just based on blind A/B testing. But I can tell you guys that there will be a difference. It's not like they're exactly the same. They will sound different, even if you volume match. So that's the thing, right? I will give you guys a sound comparison test, and yeah, please listen to it with headphones, and I think you guys will hear a difference between them, to be honest. I guarantee you guys will hear a difference because there are differences between them. So it's like people out there are going to say, yeah, all DACs and stuff, all DAPs sound the same, and it's just like the difference is like, oh, maybe in like UI. I think more in tonality, but yeah. Anyways, take a listen. It's just sound comparisons after this, and let me know what you guys think. And let me know if you guys have any questions in the comment section below about any of these DAPs. Yeah, I can hopefully answer them. All right, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching.